My name's Alex Ward. I was, a forklift operator mostly. Warehouse gigs, temporary contracts. Nothing exciting. If you're hearing this, I'm assuming the ad's still circulating. If you've seen it, the one that says human applicants only, I need you to listen closely. Because that's where all of this started for me. I found the ad at 3:41 a.m., buried between overdue bills and job rejections. No company name, no location, just seeking raw material advisor. High pay, minimal interaction, immediate placement, human applicants only. I should have closed the tab. Instead, I clicked apply. Didn't even ask what raw material meant. They responded in 4 minutes. Next thing I know, I'm standing in front of a steel door 2 hours outside the city. No signs, no windows, just the buzz of fluorescent lights and the smell of something chemical. A woman in a gray uniform met me at the entrance. She didn't smile, didn't ask about my resume, just looked me over and said, "Do you have any major attachments outside this job?" I shook my head. She nodded. "That'll make things easier." She handed me a key card with my name on it and the words Raw Material Advisor printed underneath. No photo, no paperwork, just that. "You start tomorrow," she said. 6 a.m. sharp. Bring nothing personal. I still don't know what made me say yes. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was the silence waiting for me back home. Either way, I showed up, and I've been here ever since. I arrived at 5:55 a.m. The sun hadn't come up yet. The facility looked even more lifeless in daylight, if you could call it that. Pale concrete walls, security cameras that followed me without moving. No parking lot, no signage, just that same steel door and a keypad waiting to buzz me in. Inside, everything smelled sterilized, like someone had just finished cleaning something up. Something big. There was no front desk, no greetings, no signs pointing anywhere. Just yellow lines on the floor. One led left, one led right, and one went straight until it disappeared behind a locked gate labeled Authorized Staff Only, level red. I followed the yellow line marked Material Advisory Unit until I reached a room that felt like a walk-in freezer. 4 blank walls. A metal desk bolted to the floor, a chair that groaned when I sat in it, and a small chute on the far wall, like the kind in old hotels where you used to drop off laundry. On the desk was a laminated card that read, "Welcome, A Ward do not speak to security staff. Do not attempt to exit during shift hours. All material decisions are final." Next to it sat a red button labeled Approve and a black one labeled Reject. At exactly 6 a.m., the chute opened and a crate dropped in with a metallic thud. Heavy, marked with a barcode and one word in bold black ink, Unsorted. I opened it. Inside was a black hoodie, stained at the collar, a cracked smartphone, a shoelace tied in a tight knot, and a spiral notebook with 2 pages torn out. That was it. No instructions, no labels, no context. I waited for someone to explain, but nothing happened. So I sat there, staring at those 2 buttons, wondering if this was some kind of test. Eventually, I pressed Approve. A soft tone played. The crate slid back into the wall. Gone. 5 minutes later, another one dropped. That's how the shift went. No breaks. No clocks. Just crate after crate. Some held clothes. Some had letters. One had a single baby shoe. By the time my shift ended, I didn't remember how many I'd approved or why I picked one button over the other. All I knew was that every time I hesitated, the room got a little colder. I didn't see anyone my first day. No supervisors, no guards, no janitors. Just silence and crates and those 2 buttons. But on my second shift, I noticed something. Footsteps, software, steady, not military, not careless, something in between. When I stepped into the hallway during my 10-minute lunch window, yes, they time it. I saw them. 3 workers standing at the far end of the corridor near the vending machines. All of them in identical gray uniforms. Not talking, not eating, just standing. I raised a hand. None of them waved back. One turned their head slightly, like they heard something. I took a few steps toward them. They didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even seem to breathe. Then as I got within maybe 20 feet, the lights above them flickered, and just like that, they were gone. No footsteps, no doors. Just gone. I told myself, maybe they went around a corner I didn't see. Or maybe they were workers like me, on some job that didn't require talking. But that night, when I left through the front corridor, I saw a reflection in the darkened window. 3 people standing behind me. Same spot, same uniforms. I turned. Nothing there. Back in the material room, I tried to focus. New crates, new decisions. But one had a post-it note inside, different from the others. Sloppy handwriting, smeared at the edge. It read, "Don't eat the break room cookies. They're not for you." We don't get cookies in the break room. There's only a water cooler, a flickering light, and a microwave that buzzes too long. But that night, when I passed the break room again, on my way out, I smelled something sweet, fresh-baked, like cinnamon, and sitting on the counter was a paper plate with 6 warm cookies. No crumbs, no note, just waiting. I didn't eat one. I don't think that was a test. It started like any other shift. Crates slid in. I approved some, rejected others. Most didn't make sense. A set of keys with no markings, a melted plastic toy, a wedding ring still attached to a finger. I tried not to think too hard about it. But then one crate arrived that was different. It didn't clang when it landed. It was silent, too light. When I opened the lid, I froze. Inside was a spiral-bound notebook. Not unusual, I'd seen plenty, but this one had a sticker on the cover. A torn, faded label from my old high school. Property of A. Ward, room 304, scribbled in blue pen. My pen, my handwriting. I flipped it open. Page after page of old notes I barely remembered writing. Doodles in the margins, a list of songs I liked back then. And on the very last page, something new. Something I didn't write. You approved her, didn't you? The page was blank before. I'm sure of it. I sat back in my chair and checked the crate manifest. Normally, they're printed on thermal tags. Barcode, classification code, item weight. This one had none of that. In its place, a sticky note. Material recovered from Class 5. Reclamation error, review immediately. Advisor ID. Award. They were sending me things tied to me now. That wasn't supposed to happen. I placed my hand over the reject button, hovered, hesitated, and that's when I noticed the security camera in the corner slowly rotate, for the first time since I got here, and locked directly onto me. I rejected it. The light above the door flickered violently. The crate disappeared. Then, silence. Until a voice came through the room's speaker system, gravelly, distorted, like it hadn't been used in years. Misfiling noted. Continue. That was the first time they spoke to me, and the last time I assumed any of this was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to be there after hours. They make it clear from day one. Your shift ends at exactly 3 p.m. You leave through the same corridor you came in. You don't linger, you don't explore, and you never interact with the night shift. But on Thursday, the crate chute jammed during my last hour. I stayed behind to log the issue. Figured I'd be gone in 5 minutes. At 3:07, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavier than mine. Rhythmic, like something walking with intent, but dragging one side slightly behind. I stepped out. The halls were darker than usual. Lights on motion sensors clicked on just a second too late. Long shadows snapped across the walls as I passed. That's when I saw it. At the end of the north corridor, a digital board I'd never noticed before. High up on the wall, flickering red. It said, Night Shift, Intake List, Unit 5, B. Material, 811. Unit 7, A. Material, 812 to Unit 9, C. Material, 813. Unit 12, F. Material, 814. Advisor Room, A Ward. Material, 815. I stared at it for a long time. At my name. It wasn't a mistake, it wasn't a label. I was listed as incoming material. I turned around and walked, calmly, quietly, back to my room. Shut the door. Sat in my chair. Didn't breathe too loud. At exactly 3:15, the lights in the hallway dimmed to black. A low tone rang out, like a submarine alarm played too slow. The sound of something beginning. The map I was given on my first day showed only 3 corridors, east, west, and admin. But I'd seen a 4th door. It was always locked, marked authorized staff only, level red. Until today. At the end of my shift, I passed it like I always do. But this time, the panel beside it blinked green, unlocked. I hesitated. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe someone forgot to lock up. Maybe it was an opportunity. I scanned my badge. The door opened. The air inside was humid, damp like a swimming pool left untouched for years. Pipes ran low across the ceiling, leaking condensation. Fluorescent bulbs flickered overhead, but only some. Most had burned out. It didn't look like the rest of the factory. No polished steel, no clean floors, just peeling paint, water stains, and silence. There were doors lining both sides, unmarked, sealed, and oddly narrow. Some had claw marks, others had names. Scratched in, faint, human names. I kept walking until I reached one room where the door was already open. Inside was a small office, or what used to be one. Papers scattered, filing cabinets overturned, a moldy coffee mug on the desk, and a coat on the floor. Same color as mine, same badge. The name was half torn, but I could still make it out. A Warner, Raw Material Advisor. I knelt down and picked up the badge. It was warm. On the desk was a notebook. The last page read, Do not trust the crates that whisper. Do not eat anything that knows your name. And if you're reading this, you're already part of the inventory. I closed the notebook, stood, and walked out. The door sealed behind me, loudly. And this time, when I tried my badge to reopen it, it blinked red. I didn't plan to come back the next day. I packed a bag, called in sick, stared at my front door for 3 hours, but I knew, deep down, that if I didn't show up, someone would come looking or something. So I went in. When I reached my desk, there was already a crate waiting for me. No label, no barcode, just a small envelope taped to the lid that said, For advisor use only. Inside was a flash drive. No explanation, no sender. I plugged it into the terminal. There were 3 audio files. The first was mostly static, crackling, and distorted. But then a voice broke through. Male. Breathy. Hoarse. Advisor log, March 7th. They've started watching again. I can feel it in the vents. Something sharp. The second file was clearer. Don't listen to the intercom when it whispers your name. It's not broken. It's trying to get in. The third file was longer. Calm. Resigned. If you've received this, you're next. They don't fire us. They reassign us, piece by piece. You'll notice your memory slipping soon. That's how it begins. Your name goes up on the intake board. Then your file gets rewritten. One day, you'll open a crate and see your own face inside. And you'll wonder when it happened. I tried to leave. I made it as far as the road. Thought I was free. A pause, then quieter. I woke up back at my desk. different clothes, same name, different handwriting. They don't just take your body, they overwrite you. The recording ended. I pulled the flash drive out and crushed it in my hand. Before I could think twice, tossed the pieces down the chute. But the voice stayed with me. All day, I kept thinking about what he said, about opening a crate and seeing your own face. I didn't want to believe it. But by the end of my shift, I realized something. The handwriting on today's forms. It didn't look like mine anymore. There's only one vending machine in the facility. It's tucked between two bolted doors in the break hall, past the flickering exit sign that never leads anywhere. I'd never used it. The machine doesn't take cash, cards, or coins. No keypad, just a fingerprint scanner. Every time I passed it, the glass stayed dark, the shelves empty, until today. When I walked by, it lit up. Soft red glow, rows fully stocked, not with chips or soda, with items, personal ones. On the top shelf, a Polaroid photo of two people I didn't know. One row below, a cassette tape labeled Property of Bethany. Third row, a plastic ring from a capsule toy machine. Fourth row, center, a silver necklace, frayed cord. I stopped breathing when I saw it. It was my sister's. She used to wear it every day. Until the accident. It was scratched in the middle just like hers, where it had caught on the car door. I pressed my thumb to the scanner without thinking. The machine clicked. The necklace dropped. When I picked it up, it was still warm. I returned to my room, sat down, and held the necklace in my hand. The metal buzzed faintly, like static. Then the intercom crackled to life. No alarm. No instructions. Just a voice. Software familiar. Alex? It's Beth. I know it's confusing, but I need you to listen. You don't have much time. I stood. My chest felt tight. They're not going to hurt you. Not yet. But the longer you stay, the harder it'll be to leave. They need you to choose. That's why they picked you. You follow orders. You approve. But if you keep doing what they want, you'll disappear the way I did. The intercom cut out. Silence again. The necklace buzzed once in my palm, then stopped. When I looked down, the cord had turned black. The crates changed after that. At first, they were filled with junk, torn up clothes, burned books, broken watches, but now they were specific. Tailored. Yesterday's crate had an old wallet I lost when I was 19. I recognized the tear in the leather. The faded movie stub still tucked behind my ID. I hadn't seen it in over a decade. Today's crate, it held a t-shirt from my first job. A notebook with a to-do list written in my handwriting. Except the list wasn't mine. Not exactly. Things like, cancel Beth's appointment. Buy gloves before the drop-off. Smile during the follow-up interview. I read the list 3 times. My handwriting, yes, same curve in the Y, same sharp R's, but these weren't my memories. At least, I didn't remember them. Then taped to the inside of the crate lid was a sticky note. All selections are part of your psychological profile. Thank you for your cooperation. There was no signature, just a symbol, a red triangle inside a circle. I'd seen it before once. Faintly stamped into the back of my ID badge. That's when the room changed. Not physically. Not at first. But the air got heavier. The lights dimmed on their own. And the crate didn't retract. It just stayed there, waiting. I didn't know which button to press. Approve? Reject? Was I approving myself now? Rejecting memories? I reached for the reject button, but stopped when I noticed something in the corner of the crate. A small object, buried under the shirt. A tooth. Human. Still bleeding. I hit reject. The crate vanished. 10 minutes later, a new one dropped in with a familiar tag. Subject: a ward. Profile update. Incomplete. Whatever they were doing, they weren't finished. And neither was I. At 9 a.m. sharp, a tone rang through the intercom, higher pitched than usual. Then a message, flat and rehearsed. Advisor A. Ward, report to Human Resources. Room B17. Bring your badge. I didn't know there was a Human Resources department. I'd never seen another office. Never even heard of Room B17. Still, I followed the yellow line on the floor, which had silently updated overnight. It led to a part of the building I'd never been, past the material wing, past the break room, beyond a rusted security gate that buzzed open without prompting. Room B17 was buried deep in the lower levels. The door was unmarked. Inside, a single chair, a frosted window, and a voice coming from behind it. I never saw who was speaking. Let's begin your review, Mr. Ward. The voice was calm, genderless, like it had been filtered through a machine that removed anything human. You've been with us 11 days. In that time, you've processed 312 crates, 58% approved, 39% rejected, 3% paused. That's not recommended. I didn't speak. I wasn't sure I was supposed to. The voice continued. Do you feel emotionally compromised by the materials? Have you experienced memory bleeding? Do you still dream as a human? Each question was worse than the last. Then the lights dimmed and a new file printed out from a slot beside the chair. My name at the top, a full psychological profile, labeled Live Feed, Integration at 43%. They weren't just observing me. They were measuring what was left of me. The voice behind the window paused, then asked the last question. Would you like to apply for permanent status? I stood up. Didn't answer. Walked out. Back in my room, a crate was waiting for me. Inside, a sheet of mirror-polished steel. When I looked at my reflection, I didn't recognize the man staring back. His eyes were mine, but too clear, too focused, like something had already made a decision. I didn't go back to work the next day. I packed a bag, turned off my phone, and drove. No goodbye. No note. Just the hum of tires on the highway, and a growing sense of dread clinging to the back of my throat. For the first hour, everything felt normal. I passed familiar signs, trees I recognized, the cheap diner with the flickering open sign where I used to eat after high school. Then I reached the intersection that should have taken me back to town. It wasn't there. Instead, the road curved. Just curved. Like it had always done that. No road sign, no shoulder, no GPS signal, just a smooth bend that led back into the trees. I turned around. 20 minutes later, I passed the same diner again. Only this time, it was boarded up. Broken window. No lights. I kept driving. Another hour, and I saw the factory gates in the distance. I was back. No detour, no decision, just back. Like the world had snapped into place around me. I parked outside and stared at the concrete walls. Then I saw it. A new sign above the steel entrance, flickering faintly. Ward A. Permanent routing in progress. They weren't following me. They didn't have to. The road itself had been changed, rewritten to bring me home. Inside, no one said a word. The yellow lines welcomed me back. My badge buzzed like it never left my pocket, and waiting at my desk was a note. Welcome back. Integration proceeds more smoothly once you've stopped trying to escape. I never wanted to go down there. We were told the lower levels were for logistics only, that materials advisors weren't cleared for floor access, but the night after the road turned on me, I stopped caring. I took the service stairs instead of the elevator. No cameras, no lights, just damp concrete and the hum of machines far below. Floor -3 didn't have a door, just an opening, like the mouth of a tunnel. The air changed the second I stepped through. It smelled wrong, like burnt hair and ozone and old meat sealed in plastic. The processing floor, wasn't what I expected. No conveyor belts, no forklifts, no workers in orange vests, just massive glass chambers, 10 feet high, humming with static. Inside each chamber, something moving, shifting, growing. At first glance, they looked human, but only at first. One chamber held a suit, empty but standing upright, twitching slightly like it was breathing. Another held a spinning carousel of photographs, hundreds of them, all of the same woman smiling at slightly different angles. Her eyes were wrong in each one. And in one chamber, the largest, was a chair, bolted to the floor, and sitting in that chair was me, or at least someone wearing my face. Same jawline, same scar above the eyebrow, but the eyes were blank, glassy, like a doll that hadn't been painted yet. I backed away, breath caught in my throat. Behind me, a screen flickered on, a feed of hundreds, maybe thousands, of images, not of people, of approvals, dates, crate numbers, metadata. Every one of them stamped, integration material, 87% stability. Voice pattern locked, construct ready. They weren't building machines. They were reconstructing people, from the parts we approved. I turned to run. At the end of the hallway, a crate slid out from the wall, tall, black, unmarked, and cracked open just slightly as I passed. Inside, I heard my own voice whisper, "You're almost complete." There was one wing I hadn't explored. West End, behind a rusted panel labeled Unit 12F. The door was sealed every day of my shift. Until today. It was cracked open, just enough to let the fluorescent light pool into the hallway. A flickering line of pale green that seemed to breathe with a hum of machines behind it. I knocked once. Nothing. Pushed it open. Inside, a small padded room with no windows. One bed, one chair, one mirror, and her. She sat curled in the corner, barefoot, knees to her chest, staring at the ceiling like she'd forgotten it was there. She looked human, but not completely. Her eyes didn't blink right. Her hands were too still, like someone had assembled the shape of a girl but never finished the final details. Her voice, though, that was real. "You're not supposed to be here." I opened my mouth, but no words came. She smiled, barely. "Don't worry. I'm not part of the floor anymore, not since they paused my integration. Too much memory conflict. They said I was unstable." I stepped closer. She didn't flinch. "You're Alex, right?" I nodded slowly. "I remember you. Not from here, from before. I think we knew each other. Or maybe they made me think that." She tilted her head. "They build us from leftovers, bits of people, memories nobody claims, voices you forget in dreams, but sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes what they build starts asking questions." She held something out, a folded piece of paper. I took it, written in jagged ink. "If you want to stay human, stop pressing the buttons. If you want to know the truth, keep going." She leaned forward, and for the first time, her expression shifted, not programmed, not robotic. "Afraid. Whatever you do, don't open a crate that knows your name. Those ones are alive." I asked if she wanted to leave with me. She looked at the walls, the ceiling, her own hands. Then she shook her head. "I don't think I'm allowed outside anymore." I left her there. When I got back to my room, there was a new crate waiting for me, unmarked. But this time, the label didn't say material. It just said, "Welcome, Alex." And when I leaned in close, I swear I heard it breathe. The next morning, the crate was gone. No note, no record, like it had never existed. But the door to my terminal, the one behind the advisory desk that had always been locked, now stood slightly ajar. Inside was a narrow control booth, cold, dust-covered. A single monitor flickered with lines of data scrolling too fast to read. I sat down and tapped the spacebar. Everything froze. The screen blinked once, then displayed a list of files. Decision log. A ward sessions. 1 to 219 status. Active accuracy rating. 96.7% confidence. Drift. Plus 3.4% behavior. Alignment pending review. There were timestamps, crate numbers, choice outcomes, and next to each one, a reason. Crate number 044. Shoelace tied in a knot. Decision. Approve reason. Alex associates knots with control, likely to submit. Crate number 119. Photograph of sister. Decision. Paused. Reason. Unexpected emotional spike. Delay to assess integration resistance. I scrolled further. Some entries were marked in red. Crate number 203. Unmarked, whispered name upon approach. Decision. Reject reason. Manual override. Subject reaction inconsistent with protocol. Identity retention detected. Manual override. I didn't remember pressing reject on that crate. But there it was, in black and white. I opened the detailed logs. Under input source, it said, Operator, null, command injected. Someone, or something, had made the decision for me. I backed out of the logs, heart pounding, and clicked on a final folder marked Future Recommendations, A. Ward. It opened a single file with one line. Elevate to construct, level 2. Memory wipe incomplete. Full compliance pending. Behind me, the lights flickered. A low mechanical click echoed through the advisory room. A new crate slid in, stamped in red. Live decision, irreversible. This time, there was no approve or reject button, just a microphone, and a screen that said, Say your name to continue. I didn't say my name. I walked out, left the crate sitting there, and for once, it didn't retract. No alarms, no messages, just silence, humming beneath everything like the walls were waiting. I didn't go home that night. I went to the locker room. There's a mirror in the back. One they tell you not to use. Cracked, warped, leaning just slightly too far forward, like it wants to fall. I stood in front of it for a long time, and then I looked. At first, it was me. Same face, same tired eyes, same scar above the eyebrow. But the longer I stared, the more details drifted, like something under the surface was adjusting. My pupils didn't react to the light. My lips didn't move when I breathed. And something inside the reflection, some layer just beneath the skin, shifted. Like there was a second version of me floating underneath. I raised my hand. The mirror lagged. Only by a second, but enough. Then I smiled, just to prove I could. The reflection didn't. I stepped back. The mirror flickered. For a split second, the reflection changed completely. Not a face, not a body, just a shape, tall, twisted. No features, only the outline of a person trying to be me. The glass cracked down the middle. I ran, back to my room, my station. The crate was still there, microphone blinking like a heartbeat. Say your name to continue. This time I did, but not out loud. I whispered it, just loud enough for the thing listening to hear. And when I did, the crate opened on its own, inside, my badge. But it wasn't mine anymore. The name had changed. Same photo, different name. Alex Ward, construct pending. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't, because I no longer trusted the thing inside me that wanted to. I didn't say my name. I walked out, left the crate sitting there, and for once, it didn't retract. No alarms, no messages, just silence, humming beneath everything like the walls were waiting. I didn't go home that night. I went to the locker room. There's a mirror in the back. One they tell you not to use. Cracked, warped, leaning just slightly too far forward, like it wants to fall. I stood in front of it for a long time, and then I looked. At first, it was me. Same face, same tired eyes, same scar above the eyebrow. But the longer I stared, the more details drifted, like something under the surface was adjusting. My pupils didn't react to the light, my lips didn't move when I breathed, and something inside the reflection, some layer just beneath the skin, shifted. Like there was a second version of me floating underneath. I raised my hand. The mirror lagged. Only by a second, but enough. Then I smiled, just to prove I could. The reflection didn't. I stepped back. The mirror flickered. For a split second, the reflection changed completely. Not a face, not a body, just a shape, tall, twisted. No features, only the outline of a person trying to be me. The glass cracked down the middle. I ran, back to my room, my station. The crate was still there, microphone blinking like a heartbeat. Say your name to continue. This time I did, but not out loud. I whispered it, just loud enough for the thing listening to hear. And when I did, the crate opened on its own, inside, my badge. But it wasn't mine anymore. The name had changed. Same photo, different name. Alex Ward. Construct pending. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't, because I no longer trusted the thing inside me that wanted to. The summons came in the form of a blinking green light above my door. Not a message, not an alert. Just the soft, pulsing glow of something waiting. When I stepped into the hallway, the yellow lines on the floor had changed. No more turns, no options. Just one unbroken line leading toward a door I'd never seen before. One I shouldn't have seen. Management etched into black glass. No handle, no buzzer. But the door opened as I approached, as if I'd already been expected. Inside was a boardroom, or something pretending to be one. 12 chairs, 11 occupied. They didn't look human, they almost did. Flesh stretched over angular frames, eyes too still. One of them had lips that never moved, but I heard them speak in my head like a voice through broken radio. "Welcome, Alex." They all spoke at once. Different pitches, same sentence, no echo. "You've exceeded expectations." I didn't sit, didn't speak. The chair at the end of the table pulled itself out anyway. "You've shown excellent behavioral compliance, a high rejection threshold, strong memory retention. We'd like to offer you something more permanent." I shook my head. One of them twitched, a finger spasming like a spider leg. "This isn't a request, it's a recognition." They placed something on the table, a new badge. This one wasn't plastic. It pulsed slightly, organic, like it had a heartbeat. It read, "Alex Ward, Integration Agent." I stared at it. They continued. "You will no longer need approval or rejection. You will become the decision, a walking filter, trusted with inbound cognition, trusted to erase what's not useful, trusted to recruit." I stepped back. The lights dimmed. Behind them, a wall-sized screen flickered on, showing hundreds of faces. Some I recognized, some I didn't. All labeled, all cataloged. "We don't hire advisors, Alex, we build them. From the right memories, from the most malleable lives. You were always part of this. You only needed to remember." I left without the badge, but the badge followed me. It was waiting on my desk the next morning. Pulsing. Waiting to be worn. The crate was already there when I arrived. Larger than any I'd seen before. Nearly the size of the room. No barcode, no seal. Just a single line stenciled across the top. "For immediate internal processing, A. Ward." I didn't approach it at first. Instead, I circled the room, touched the walls, looked for cameras I couldn't see. Then I sat down at my desk, hands in my lap, watching the crate like it might move on its own. It didn't. But the air shifted, like pressure behind my eyes. a presence too large for the space. Eventually, I stood and opened it. No lock, no hiss of compressed air, just silence and the slow lifting of the lid. Inside was me. Not in some metaphorical way. Not a suit or a mirror or a flickering reflection. It was me. Sleeping. Same clothes I wore last year. The watch I lost in college still strapped to the wrist. A faded bruise I remembered from a bike crash when I was 10. Perfect. Still. Breathing. And in its hand, a folder labeled Reconstructed Alex Ward, version 1.0. I opened it. Inside were documents, dozens of them, detailing every moment of my life. School records, psychological evaluations, memory drafts, pages and pages of adjustments. Some approved, some redacted. Emotion layer, too thick. Integration, resistance, moderate. Empathy, threshold. Recalibrate. Voice match, 91%. Needs retuning. At the bottom, stamped in red, ready for phase transfer. Replace current advisor shell. The me in the crate opened its eyes, just once, briefly, and it looked at me like it didn't know which of us was real. Then it smiled, faint, tired, peaceful, and closed its eyes again. I shut the crate, pressed reject, and the room went dark. The lights came back one at a time. The crate was gone, but the smell it left behind, something faint, synthetic, like warm plastic or old skin, lingered in the vents. I looked down at my desk. The badge pulsed once. Integration delayed. Just a delay. Not a denial. I waited until 2:55 a.m. The facility runs quieter at night, fewer footsteps, no incoming crates, and whatever manages the place seems to blink slower during those hours. I didn't take my badge. I didn't pack anything. I just walked. Past the admin wing. Past the break room. Past the yellow lines. Every hallway I took, I chose wrong. That's how I knew I was getting close. There's an old stairwell near the boiler. Never used, barely lit. The kind that smells like dust and time and forgotten rules. I followed it down. Each level was colder, less finished. Floor -1 was storage. Floor -2 was old intake. Floor -3, I'd been there. Floor -4 had no label, just a steel door at the bottom, sealed with a palm scanner that shouldn't have responded to me. But it did. The door opened to a tunnel, wide, curved, distant wind humming through the darkness like breath in a bottle. I ran. I don't know how far. I just kept running, and at the end, a hatch. Real light behind it, moonlight, a field, trees. I cried when I saw it. I climbed the last ladder, twisted the latch, shoved it open, and stepped outside. I stood in an open clearing. The air was cold. The sky was real. But something was off. Too still. Too quiet. I looked behind me, and the hatch was gone. No door, no tunnel, just trees. I turned forward again and saw a building in the distance. Familiar. A plain gray facility with a tall, windowless face. The same one I had just escaped from. I walked toward it, because what else was I supposed to do? And when I stepped through the door, I was back at my desk. Same walls, same crate, same flickering light. Except now, something was scratched into the monitor. Protocol complete, escape recorded. Subject responds well to false freedom. And on the desk, a sticky note in my own handwriting. Next time, don't run. The next day, I wasn't alone. There was someone already sitting at my desk when I walked in. Same posture, same hair, same nervous tap in the left hand. He looked up and smiled like we were old friends, or twins who'd just run into each other after years apart. "Morning, Alex," he said. His voice was mine, same cadence, same scrape in the throat. I didn't answer. "Management said you'd be curious, said you might need time." He stood, same height, same scar above the eyebrow. "They built me for continuity. You're a good draft. but messy. I told him to leave. He didn't flinch. "Oh, I'm not here to take your place." He leaned in slightly. "I already did." He handed me a crate report. Approved, signed, in my handwriting. "Don't worry. I kept your instincts, just cleaned up the indecision." He gestured to the room. "They're phasing out the old advisors, one by one. But you get something special." I backed away. But my badge buzzed in my pocket. It buzzed with his name. He smirked. "The system's already decided. You're a memory now, and I'm the stable one. You can stay, watch, drift, or you can walk through that door and never look back." He pointed to the hallway, the one I always used. Except now it had no lights, no signs. Just a hallway of black. I turned back toward him. He was already seated, typing. He didn't look up. I took the hallway. Not because I believed him, but because I needed to know what I was without the job, without the button, without the crate. As I stepped into the dark, a soft voice whispered through the speaker overhead. "Final transition in progress. Thank you for your service, Alex. We will carry forward the best parts of you." The hallway led down. No turns, no doors. Just the sound of my own footsteps echoing against cement walls. After what felt like an hour, the floor changed beneath me, steel to glass. Below my feet, hundreds of chambers, some dark, some glowing with pale blue light, and inside each one, people, or versions of them. Some curled in corners, some standing perfectly still, all labeled with tags that hung above their glass enclosures like museum pieces. Advisor, Ward, A. Version 0.6, overcompensates. Advisor, Ward, A. Version 0.9, too compliant. Advisor, Ward, A. Version 1.0, self-deletes under pressure. Advisor, Ward, A. Version 1.2, currently active. That last one? That was him. The one sitting at my desk. The one who looked like me, sounded like me, and never hesitated. A screen blinked on in front of me. It displayed a simple question. "Would you like to view your composite?" I hesitated. Then I pressed yes. The screen filled with fragments, photos, memories, handwriting samples, voice logs, dreams I thought I'd forgotten. Things I'd never told anyone. A color-coded diagram, labeled Cognitive Layer Breakdown, showed exactly which parts of me had been taken, repurposed, redistributed. Fear, empathy, curiosity, all stored, all shared, across other advisors, other constructs, other monsters. That's when I realized they hadn't built a copy of me. They'd harvested me, bit by bit. And what was left, the me, that walked these halls, that wondered, that tried to escape, was just the part they didn't need yet. The waste. The shadow of something more useful. I looked down again at the chambers. One of them blinked. A new tag appeared. Ward A. Obsolete retention pending. And the chamber beneath me began to rise. Glass slid upward. Soft mist hissed into the air. A voice whispered over the intercom. "Welcome to your final placement. Please remain still as we catalog what remains." I didn't run. Didn't scream. Just stood there, staring at the reflection in the glass as it closed around me. And in the silence that followed, I heard one last thing. My own voice from somewhere far away. Crate received. Subject accepted. Memory overwritten.